Dear beloveds, well, I realized, I think because it's been summertime and school holidays here in Australia, that I haven't gone live to do a mini masterclass just for no other reason than I want to share what is inside of my soul right now. And so today is the day. And for a lot of you around Australia in particular, you have had kids going back to school today. Congratulations, you made it through the summer. And for others, you have to wait another week. And I honor you for that. My kids are going back tomorrow. But I felt like it would be a lovely opportunity to get back into the groove for me, get myself back into 2020, and to, as always, when I go live, really observing the things that I am witnessing around me that I feel like I want to talk about. And those things are sometimes internal, witnessing, and sometimes they're things I'm seeing in the environment around me. And this is quite, clickbaity. I guess the title I wanted to share of this is, the one thing that we're not doing in our spiritual awakening, and to kind of give some insight into why I think this is causing us harm on our path. So here's the thing that I think we're not doing. I think collectively, particularly in the West, in our spiritual seeking, we're very much like that. We're seekers. We love to seek. We love the next thing, the next book, the next teacher, the next retreat, the next way of doing things, the next kind of model, the next, formula for awakening, or whatever it is, whatever way that you are approaching your spirituality. And we consume things very quickly. So we read books, very quickly, or we listen to them, and we hear these ideas, and we're like, yeah, that's amazing. I agree. Next book, next teacher, next experience, and next meditation. And we just keep moving forward, consuming, sort of, like rabid, crazy spiritual people who just want an intellectual hit. And we're not actually doing the work. And what is the work that I'm speaking about? The work is to actually spend time integrating the learnings and those teachings that are being offered through the texts that we're reading, or the teachers that we're listening to, or the meditations that we're participating in. There's one thing to try meditation, to love it, and then the next day go back to Insight Time or wherever you go for your meditations, be like, what's the next one? I need the next hit. I need the next experience. Versus saying, I'm going to pick one meditation practice and I'm going to give myself over to it for 40 days. And I'm going to see what happens in that evolution. And it might be not just 40 days, it might be 1,000 days. I have a beautiful postgrad right now who's in 1,000-day sadhana. And a sadhana is a word for, a prescribed devotion. It's usually prescribed by a teacher, where you would do the same practice every day and you would commit to doing it for the amount of time they're asked. And she's in 1,000-day sadhana. And to me, that's a very lacking quality in most of our spiritual seeking, because the seeking becomes the thing rather than the integration of wisdom through practice, through embodied experience. So take a little audit for yourself and notice if you're desperately trying to consume the next idea, the next text. If everybody's saying, read this book, and you're like, yeah, put down that book. People kind of jokingly say, I have 2,000 books beside my bed and none of them are read. I have a massive pile of books that are beside my bed, and I love to read more than one book at a time. But the consumption of knowledge for the sake of just getting those new ideas, or having ticked off that I've read that book, is very different to the integration and absorption. And that idea of dropping into your practices, dropping into the sacred text through slowing everything down and committing to deeply integrate the wisdom that you're reading, is such a different experience than to consume and just be like, if I read every spiritual book, or I do every meditation, or if I listen to every podcast, then somehow I'm going to get wiser and smarter. All you're doing is creating more noise here. And I don't know if you've noticed, but here tends to be the impediment to our spiritual awakening. The mind is a brilliant gift, and it is also a terrible burden, because to intellectually understand spiritual ideas is very, very different to sit in the mystery of spiritual paradox, and to sit with the discomfort of the expansion that is caused when we read a sacred text, a passage written by someone who's illuminating the mystery for us just for a moment, and to absorb it into our being, or to take a moment to sit with a meditation rather than to just kind of go, okay, next one, next one, next one, let's tick it off. I want to show on Insight Timer that I have, 4,000 minutes of new meditation content, but actually to make a decision to expand into through deepening rather than just through breadth, okay? And I think we're often making an assumption that the consumption of new sacred spiritual content is equivalent to doing the work of a deep faith. And they're very, very different ideas. One is either spending a lot of money on books that you will never fully appreciate or understand and jumping on every latest craze and fad and labeling yourself with this and what kind of this am I and wanting to kind of understand yourself intellectually. The spiritual path cannot be intellectualized. You may be able to take yourself into a spiritual experience through sacred words, through devotional practices, through meditations, but to believe that the more you know, the more spiritual you are, is the opposite of truth. In fact, the truth is the less you know, the more spiritual you are. And what I mean by that is that where we are surrendering our intellectualized ideas of understanding the true nature of reality, we can truly enter into the mystery. And it is only sitting in the mystery of the unknown that we will experience the true nature of reality. The spiritual path is experiential. It isn't intellectual. And so I invite you today, if you're noticing that you're craving a new teacher after new teacher, after new course, after new text, after new meditation, and there's never enough to satiate you, ask yourself, what would it take me to sit before the same teacher more than once, maybe for more than one program, more than one book, more than one meditation, but to actually go deeper into their medicine, to unlock whatever it is that their alchemy between them and I is elucidating in me. What would it take for me to sit with one sacred text for a really long time? And maybe I'm reading 5 at a time, but each one I'm honoring and slowly absorbing through integration. And to give yourself the gift of depth rather than just breadth, because breadth is often applauded as though the more I consume, and we see this in our world, outside of the spiritual context completely, the more I am. The more I have, the more I can demonstrate my spirituality to other people. And actually to take into your heart, maybe just one teacher this year, maybe just one path, maybe just to sit at the feet of one text, or to give yourself a timeline of maybe 40 days, set your own personal sadhana, where you will deepen into a particular practice or a series of practices again and again and again, and to notice how your relationship goes deeper. And that depth is actually probably what you're craving rather than breadth. And that actually, if you can give yourself over wholly and solely to a much simpler path and a much richer experience of the practices that you choose to engage in, you may uncover so much more than if you just keep going forward in this relentless pursuit of new information, which will never take you where your soul is craving to go. That's what I wanted to share today, dear ones. I won't keep you for long. I know that there's lots going on this week. I'm getting the kid ready for high school for the very first time, which is very cool. And another one going into year 2. But it's such a pleasure to be back here with you and to take this time and just to talk through these ideas and to share my experience of this, how we can kind of offset this consumer spirituality, which is always about the next thing, and actually say, I'm going to go deep. I'm going to deepen into what I've already invested in and notice what I learn about myself in that place. So much love. It is my privilege to serve you.